and happy Women's History Month. The month is not over, so nice to see some familiar faces. My name is Paula Bowman. I'm the president of the UN Association of the National Capital Area, one of the oldest, largest, and most active chapters of the UN Association of the USA. Some of you might not be too familiar with the UN Association. Just know that we are, along with our parent organization, a network of over 200 chapters, and the Better World campaign of the UN Foundations, the largest network of Americans that have a common mission of educating about the critical work of the UN, its specialized agencies, and advocating, meaning mobilizing our members, our constituents, to support a strong US-UN partnership. And yes, these are very challenging times. We're surrounded by challenges, we're surrounded by uncertainties, not only here in the US, but around the world. But more than ever, we believe that it's critical that we work towards a better understanding of why international cooperation is crucial, why we need to strengthen the multilateral system, and why we, as civil society, need to continue to advocate for we do and all the global goals that you are familiar with. So this is Women's History Month. We're here to honor the many who have paved their way, and also the many speakers who have been working hard to advance empowerment, equality, and again, despite the many setbacks that we have experienced across the world, more than ever, I think these are the times we need to stick together, help one another in moving that agenda forward. And today is about sharing journeys and sharing your voices and how you are moving your passions forward in this space. This program is organized by our young professionals, led by Denise and Jad, and I want to thank you both as well as your entire team for making tonight's possible. And I would be remiss if as a membership-based organization, if any of you are not yet a member, please join and get actively involved with the young professionals, with the other committees that we have on many different issues.
Ancient professionals.
You know, one of the things that it's a very intergenerational chapter, actually. We have programs and activities engaging all the age spectrums of professions. So thank you again for being here. And now I'll ask Najat to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. And to that point, young professionals spans from ages 21 to 20 years old. So it's never too late to pivot or change. But I'd like to thank our speakers that are here today. Today isn't just about encouraging us, but it's about actually showing that it has been done and it will continue to be done by women. So the names of each of our speakers, as well as what they do, vary across the board. It's not just about international development, but we have speakers today who represent the digital space, gender issues, health, public health issues. Specifically, we have Dilly Severin, Executive Director at Universal Access Project. We also have Dr. Ravi Sterling, Deputy Director at Digital Impact Hub at CARE. And we have Abigail Spangler, Global Associate Director, Gender Equality Portfolio, Room to Read. And so we're very much honored to have them to speak on their experiences and to continue to uplift us all as women and also as gentlemen who are encouraging other women. And then of course, we also have one of our young professionals moderating this event, Kei Mojiki, and she is going to kick us off. So thank you so much for coming and for spending your evening with us.
Hi everyone, you're welcome to the UNA-NCA Young Professionals. As we have been celebrating the Women's History Month, our theme is Voices of Impact, Lessons from Moving, Shaping the Future. It's always exciting to, have conversations like this and like the Jazz said, celebrating all the amazing women around the world who do great things. And for the he for she as well, and for every other individual who falls into the category that supports women globally. Before we jump into the conversation, I made some do you knows that most likely we knew already, maybe not, but really exciting to know. Well, I'm excited to share them with you. The first is, did you know that women are underrepresented in leadership globally? As of 2024, only 28% of managerial positions worldwide are held by women. The question is, where are our women? Another do you know shows that, and I was having these conversations with our panelists earlier today. This study shows that mentorship can increase promotion and retention rates for women by over 15% compared to those without mentors. And I'm sharing my personal experience with myself and my friends. So I have mentors, and I was telling them that just yesterday I was ranting to one of my mentors because I was having a very hectic day. And I realized that one of the things we do a lot when things aren't going well is to react. We rant, we talk. Very few times do we spend time to actually get actions and get solutions for those ranting. So you see where your mentors come into place because they have span of experiences, wealth of knowledge about some of the situations that you're having. So in my case, I spent 28 minutes ranting. And when I was done, my mentor was like, oops. But guess what? I left the meeting very excited because I got actionable steps to solve the problem, steps I wasn't thinking about. And with that, we're going to dive into the conversations as we go on. And you could really see there's a huge profile of our speakers that are online. So shortly after the meeting, sometimes you can always go online, read about them, network with them after this conversation. And I'm going to start with, you could still do a few seconds, introduction about yourself in your own words, beyond what we have for you guys online. So I'm going to start with Abby. And I have a question for you, Abby. And the question says, how can we ensure that women from all backgrounds, including those from marginalized communities, are included in decision-making spaces?
All right. First off, hi everyone. I just want to say I'm so happy to be here, and thank you to the UNA in this chapter to invite all of us. This is a great opportunity to meet people and to talk about these important issues, and so I'm very excited to be here. So yeah, I think in my internal office space, there is a lot of women representation. I work at an international organization that focuses on education, and I'm part of the gender equality portfolio team. So a lot of women that are represented and have leadership roles on my team. However, we work in many communities around the world, and a lot of our job is to talk to communities, to parents, to schools about why it's important to keep girls in school and to have them graduate secondary school. And a lot of times when we have these parent meetings, mothers aren't there. It's a lot of fathers who are talking about early marriage, who are talking about income issues, and so their children need to be pulled out of school to help with income. And in those spaces, we really do feel that women and young girls' voices are silenced or not represented. And when working in those tough spaces, a lot of times it comes down to, I don't want to come across as I know you don't, because that's not going to create a good conversation, but to sit there and really understand where they're coming from, why this situation's happening, and how to really understand how we can work together to find an outcome that everyone feels comfortable with, because sustainability doesn't come when there's someone who's like, I'm not okay with this, or, oh, I'm going to agree with her, but as soon as she walks out that room, we're right back to where we started. And so a lot of what my job is trying to come to common ground, even if I have to give a little bit and be like, I don't love this I don't love this outcome, but I know that if we say, hey, let's just take this year, can we make sure that she's in school until this year, and we can follow up at the beginning of the next year of the school year? So these like small increments. And what I like to say is I like to meet people where they are. And particularly when we're talking about gender norms or gender roles and in very traditional spaces because people are really set in their ways and really set in their ways of thinking about what people should do, what people shouldn't do. So really meeting people where they are and taking it step by step or in small conversations.
And just really driving from this, really the reason why we're here as we spend time to really think about, and not just the History Month and the thing that it has, but how can women and young people in general come together to really move forward. And just like, Abby said, working, collaborating, there's that saying that you can't work together with someone that you don't agree. And I have a question for Dr. Ravi just right off this, and it's really about the year being the Women History Month thing, moving forward together, women educating and inspiring generations. And still connecting that to what Abby has just shared earlier, how have you seen the power of collective actions and intergenerational knowledge, sharing, shape our work?
Yeah, I'd love to take that out for a while. Thanks for a good question. And I also just want to give a shout out to my friend Haley because she's the reason I'm here today, and this is such a fun thing to do. We've got beautiful people and great questions, and this tulip tree out there, and this dove just rolling by. And it's like I've been really down for the last 2 months, and maybe today there's this is what I needed. So thank you, Haley. And first of all, everything Abigail said, like that's straight, like she said it much better than I could. It's exactly what I do, except I work on rural connectivity, trying to bring internet to women and girls, in unconnected places where all those social norms, all that stuff, we want to do it for the girl that's out of school, and all of this stuff to reach, people, and you certainly, I think that's where the power of women, really come along, because I've been around long enough. I'm 51, but I've seen enough changes, in culture, in society, in politics to realize, and this is not original, because many other women that have written about it, no one coalesces and community builds like women when we have a common enemy, right? And I'm not saying men are the common enemy. I'm not saying Elon's the common enemy. I might be saying Elon is the common enemy. Just might. But when we're under stress, women, we can be awful to each other. Just ask a table of women when one goes to the bathroom, right? The other goes, and we're like, oh my God, did you see her heels? How can she even do that? It's after Labor Day, she can't do that. She's wearing white. We can be really awful and catty, but at the end of the day, when we are threatened, or we see that there's a better future, or we feel that our kids are threatened, or our way of life is not going the way it needs to, no one builds coalitions better than women. We are crazy at it, and if we can put anything, just find that commonality, dig in, and I think we're going into one of those times right now. A lot of things are going to change. A lot of stuff is going to converge. I love seeing on LinkedIn right now that different women's orgs are like, okay, instead of competing for the same $4, we're going to collaborate and then do it. And I think that women we are amazing at this because we've been doing it for so long. We got the vote, we got checkbooks, we finally got credit cards in our name in 1973, the year I was born, vintage year. We've been really behind for a long time, and together we get shit done. And so I think that this just means we do more and more of it, and I'm excited about that. And from every sector, we are women first, and then our sector second. I also think that, if I'm in a community, if I'm in northern Nigeria or southern India or that kind of stuff, I am not that person that's going to galvanize a bunch of women, right? I don't speak the language, I don't understand the nuances, I'm an odd girl out. But I've also seen where groups of committed women are just such power players. If someone's getting beaten in a community by their husband, maybe she can do nothing. But she goes to her savings group, her self-help group, that kind of stuff in Uganda, and you get 60 angry women with pandas, that dude's never lifting his hand again, right? So I just think that there's a lot that women do together to coalition build. We do great at that. What we have to work on is when we get what we want, not turning on each other, because women are fast to turn too, so we got to be better about that.
That's so profound, and really so true. Well, really that even help us to navigate through the political climate where we're in right now. A lot of things are happening. I've seen a lot of people nod their head, yes, we all agree. A lot of political change, things are changing, and you're not really sure. Which is for me, what should I do? Every day we keep hearing things, and sometimes you're like, am I even in the right career right now? Because it looks like the next 4 years things might be changing. So Seeing Delia, we'll be sending this question to you. It says, given the current political climate and uncertainty surrounding foreign aid, what advice do you have for young professionals seeking career opportunities in international development, human rights, or related fields? Because it's like there's really no future anymore, but we're not sure what to do. They're literally selling some buildings. I don't know.
Wow. Thank you for the question, and again, thank you for having me here. I think it's an interesting moment. You know, I just have to say I'm sad that I'm going to say this because when I started in this field, people kept saying this phrase to me. I'm like, oh my God, not again. On the parallel or the metaphor that a crisis is also an opportunity. So I'm sorry for saying that. But I also want to say that it is an opportunity. I work at the Universal Access Project on sexual and reproductive health, rights, and justice. So when I think of the issues that I work on, it's always been a difficult political environment. And so for me, I think it's important to remember that sometimes in these moments when we're all under attack, that it's also a moment of solidarity. So for many years, for example, when we would work on issues of abortion, issues of female genital mutilation, there were lots of other groups who said, I'm glad you're doing this work, but I don't think I can be in community with you on advocacy. I think this is a moment where suddenly, when we would say as sexual and reproductive health rights advocates that it's not our issue, it's more just that we're the canary in the coal mine. And we're the ones that are kind of showing you what could happen to all of us. And so I think it's a moment to be humble. I'm originally from St. Lucia in the Caribbean, and also our partners overseas have been saying, like, calm down, guys. Like, you're also not the first country to have experienced a difficult political environment. So I want to say the opportunity is manifold. One, we have opportunities to build new partnerships, both across sectors here in the US, but also to think of our colleagues overseas truly as the experts that we are, which sometimes our industry is not so good at doing. And then the second piece is, I think, keeping an open mind about where opportunities might be. We do a decent amount of work with business at the Universal Access Project, and you would be surprised at how many champions are in some of the most challenging corporations who are fighting for us. So I would say don't give up hope. The last thing I will say is, especially when it comes to the UN, we do a lot of work with UNFPA, the agency that, of course, defends sexual and reproductive health. And there's still a lot of work to protect the norms that ground all of the things that we believe in. So even just the idea that health is a human right, the idea that we all have inalienable rights, that I'm equal to you, we can't take those things for granted. So if you guys give up hope that you're not going to work in this space, we really are not going to be in a good place. So I would just say stay the course. I know it is really, really challenging right now, but I was just at the Commission on the Status of Women, and I can say that every movement elder I spoke to said, we are stronger than this. And so that keeps me going, and I hope that keeps you going too.
And sometimes it felt sad because I was at CSWC's tonight as well, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know what's going on here.
There's that too, but
We will keep fighting, we will keep speaking. We are not women who would allow the systems and those who have their voices even heard speak over us. So I want to encourage every one of you that even after you take off from today's conversation, you want to be that young professional, that individual who speak up, be there for another woman in general, and just ensure that you keep doing good. We're going to have session for questions, so keep your questions closed. Remember them as we have conversations. And I'm going back to Dr. Ravi. And this is more of a personal experience. I love to hear, like I shared earlier, I love when I see women who are kicking it at the highest of call. You know, sometimes when you see that and you're seeing a woman leader, you're like, yes, because she's there, I can. And these are the things that we have and we've seen. So Dr. Ravi, if you could share with us a little, some defining moments or experiences that have shaped your journey as a leader in your field.
Thanks for the question, and you guys don't call me Dr. I feel like Dr. Oz or something. Maybe I'll get a cabinet position. Keep it. Maybe I'll get a cabinet position. One of them, great question. One of the moments I was thinking about, because we were just talking about maybe answering this question earlier, was And Abigail works for, is leading all these efforts at Room to Read, which came out of this guy at Microsoft started it, that kind of stuff. And I had my start at Microsoft. I was there for about 10 years. I do everything in 10-year chunks, so I'm at my 10th year in DC, so that must mean I'm moving someplace in the next few months. I just, tell me where, dude, I'm ready, I'm packed. But I remember at Microsoft, there were a few things that, two things that really stuck to me, and they happened in the course of the same week, which was when I started in the 90s, there were like 40% women, and they'd started a new employee orientation with me, and I was pretty stoked about that. And then 3 years later, there were no women that I started with. I was the only one left, and I kept thinking, this is cray. Like, what happened? Because I've always been a nerd. I think that the two biggest forces in my life that I think are transformative for everybody and everything, because I wear that hat, is technology and women, and so that's my career. But back then, I was just a technology person. I hadn't realized that women were so different than men in so many ways. It was my eye-opening experience to realize that there were none of the women that I started with. And I remember calling them and being like, why did you leave? And it's like, well, my boss was sexist, or I almost got raped in the server room, or I don't want to deal with this toxic masculinity. I mean, this shit's still going on. That was back, a few decades. And I just remember thinking, this is that moment where I have to do something. And I'm afraid to say that it was older. You have that moment and you're when you're 18 or 20 and full of energy and no cellulite. But in any case, it hit me a little later, and I thought, I'm going to do something about this. And I did, and it started off this entire career in gender in tech, as opposed to just being a woman in tech, and that has been what I've been doing ever since. And I will say the other, another moment at Microsoft was being, was that same day going up in an elevator at Microsoft Research, and these two guys looked at me, and they said, it's a female. She has lumpy bits. Out loud. I'm like, yeah, I'm a female. I'm right here. I can hear you. And they're called breasts. They're not lumpy bits. I mean, it was just
ears too.
I also have ears. It just was so weird. And that was really my first taste of I always thought the world was a meritocracy, right? I grew up as one of those little, middle income American kids that if you want it, you go out and get it, and you just never quit, and you just try your best, and it happens. And that's where I realized that it wasn't going to happen for a lot of people. I will say the other defining moment is when my boss at Microsoft told me I was too dumb to go get my PhD. He's like, don't even try. Don't even try. You do not have the intellectual horsepower for that, was what he said. And it was so fun that I got to turn around as department head about 20 years later and invite him to give a distinguished lecture at the university, just to be able to do that. And I think that the best thing that taught me was you just kill your critics with kindness. They have no idea what to do. Everybody expects you to be psychotic and hysterical and that kind of stuff, and I'm pretty good at that. Let's be clear. That is a great tool when you need it. But even last week there was World Bank Digital Summit Days, and there's the Minister of ICT from Zambia, and he's like, no, you are wrong. It is the boy child that needs our help. You're overly empowering the women. You're overly empowering girl children. Blah blah blah. I'm like, wow. I wish every place was like Zambia, where we're so overpowered. And it just took the wind out of his sails. And that just reminds me, that is the. I really like playing, judo with these guys and. Or jiu-jitsu, whatever those are. I don't do it. I'm very indoorsy. There's some karate where you use their thing against them. That's great. And I just think that this gives us an opportunity to do a lot more of that. And just to kind of show people that the mirror, hold it up to them.
Amazing. Wow. And you see why I call her doctor? I'm going to keep calling because
That's true. I'm supposed to be too dumb for that.
You know what it takes to be? Oh my goodness, I want to be her someday, when I'll be referred to as Dr. K, of course. And I'll come into, the liaison. Still have a conversation about breaking barriers and overcoming challenges. If you could share with us some of the biggest challenges you face as a woman in your industry and how you've been able to overcome them. Because most of us are growing. In the next 5-10 years, we're going to be in some places and we'll be facing some challenges. It's great to have these conversations earlier so we know how to navigate that.
Yes, so I think for sexual reproductive health, there are lots of women, right? So I'm not sure that gender alone is my barrier, but I would say when you start looking at the other intersections, then things start to sort of crumble, right? So there are not many Black women, for example, in leadership. There are not that many queer people in leadership. So you, Kate, started talking about the value of mentors, so I 100% agree with you. I would also say mentors and sponsors. So this is not my concept, but I think it really matters, not only people who will give you advice, but who are willing to risk something for you, who will open a door for you, who will vouch for you. I think that has been transformational in my career. I can think of at least 2 women who specifically said, I see leadership in you, and I am going to go to bat for you to get a role, which I think matters a lot, and especially for Black women, it matters a lot. And I say that, and you may think it's a Black woman, so these are 2 white women. So I also say as Black women, let us be open to who those sponsors can be, because a lot of the women who have shown up for me don't look like me at all. So I would just say, build your network of mentors, but also think about sponsors, people who will actually risk something, and then you then want to show up for them, right? It's a reciprocal relationship. I'll also say, still, as being a Black woman, you also need Black women surrounding you if you're a Black woman in leadership, just because there are just some unique challenges that you will face as a Black leader, that it's just good to have people who are understanding where you come from. 2 other quick points I will say. One is, I think as young people, we tell young people to just network endlessly. And it is important to network, but also it's okay for you to be much more strategic with your networking, to really think about what is it that I'm trying to get out of this networking opportunity. And also, don't feel afraid to network in your own way. I have never been a person where you just tell me, here's an event that's happening, and just like, go, just work at home, really. For me, it's much more meaningful. I have found coffees, I found smaller conversations to be the ones that actually yield things from me. So sometimes I think we feel this pressure, like, you know what, it's a networking event, and I'm gonna be there. But think about what makes you shine. What kind of environment do you shine best in? What kind of conversations do you shine best in? And lean into that. One thing we haven't discussed, which is something that we embody in my work, is we have to also pay young people and pay all of the groups that they're asking to be in spaces to be, we are like, you know what, just like claw your way, like just do it on spit and do you know what I mean? Like, I think we also need to be real about like, you had asked the question about like, how do we get people into, you have to sometimes pay them to prepare and value their time, and also if they have organizations, fund them in a trust-based way. Don't fund them to do like your tiny specific project. So I will also say, also think about the organizations that see you as a whole person and not just like you're a checkbox, right? So anyway, I'll stop rambling, but that's kind of.
Also, just to quickly build off that, one of the things when I was starting my career, I felt like I wasn't valuable. I was like, I don't have anything to offer. I'm young, I'm newly out of grad school, what I can do. Value yourself, because you are incredibly valuable. I have learned so much from my younger colleagues because they have knowledge that I don't have, because they are in different spaces, and that, going back, I don't know if that was a question, but the intergenerational knowledge and sharing and collaborating, that goes both ways. It is not just young people looking up to older or like more senior level. It is a reciprocal thing, and we learn just as much. So value yourself, take up space, be loud, because you have a lot to offer and your voice is incredibly important.
Yeah. And just on that, I think we could look through some impacts and lessons learned from you, Abby. What would you say is a piece of advice you wish you had earlier received in your career?
So I think that. I was, when I first started, I was very nervous. I felt like I didn't feel like I had a lot to offer. So I would not take risks. I would not take up space. I would not be loud. As a brown woman, I felt like a lot of my community of work was very predominantly white, and there was like some misunderstandings there. I've dealt with a lot of biases, a lot of just really uncomfortable conversations. I was born in India, so people making kind of weird comments about that I was born in India but raised in the United States, like, who are you really? And just kind of like, I'm a professional, that's who I am, right? So I also wasn't sure of myself. And I look back and I'm like, I knew what I was talking about. I should have believed in myself and listened to my intuition and my gut, because I knew what I was talking about, and I wish I would have had the strength to say, no, I can be here, I can be part of this conversation, and I can be part of the decision making because I have something valuable to offer. So yeah, I mean, really just, and you know, as you move through your career, I think depending on where you are, you're always gonna hit that space too. It doesn't just happen when you're like in early to mid. I think you know, when you jump to different spaces, if you become, you know, executive leadership, that's a scary move, and you should still feel like you're valuable and you have the knowledge to lead or to do, you know, the tasks that you're asked of. So just believe in yourself. That sounds really cheesy, but I did not believe in myself, and that held me up quite a bit.
Amazing. Do you have any last finishing thoughts?
I mean, I'll just say, I think the biggest thing for me was, and if I could like roll back the clock a little bit, and find your personal board of advisors, hold on to them. I mean, I think that's, you know, what you're saying, both of you. Exactly. I think, you know, knowing your worth, you know, being told you're stupid enough, or that you are the quota hire, or all that stuff. I mean, I heard that because I was at an engineering college and there were 4 girls, right? You know, and I bailed out of it. I didn't feel comfortable. I was like, wow, I really am. Like, when you're told you're an imposter, or even a few weeks ago, when you're told by, you know, that it's a world that, oh, USAID is this corrupt criminal enterprise, and you're like, what? I mean, you just keep, there's no lack of negative feedback. Stop listening to it. Get your personal board of advisors. And the other thing that I will say, because I tend to take up more of the oxygen in the room than most people, but I think that's a learned defense in a lot of ways, because, you know, that's how I push my fear, is you know, oh, there's that award-winning such and such. Like, I'm going to make sure that I'm sitting next to them, and that just pisses people off. Like, who are you? I'm like, it doesn't matter who I am. I got there first, right? Like, push your fear. I hear this from the women I work with all the time. You know, again, I work with. It's like, well, I'm afraid to do that. I have fear. I've got fear. I have fear. I'm like, fear did not kill us. Fear will not kill you. The only thing you're going to do is maybe say something stupid, do something stupid, and no one cares. No one will remember that tomorrow. And you will wake up and be like, all right,
Yeah.
I did it. I can do it again. So push the fear, whatever the fear is.
I guess I would add something similar. I think it's okay to be brave, right? Like, I think trust yourself, like Abby's saying, but also, like Dr. Ravi is saying, I think sometimes if you're in the minority in whatever way that looks in your space, you also need a soft place to fall, right? So I think it's not so good to be able to have to take risks, but feel like you're going to be dashed on the rocks. So to that idea of building your board of advice, whatever that is, I think you also have to figure out, like, where is my soft place? Because we're not made to suffer. I feel like, especially those of us who are not in the majority in certain positions, sometimes we are centering struggle so much. And we also have to remember we're meant to thrive, we're meant to grow, we're meant to bloom. So remember that part of yourself also exists, because you can get lost in the fight. And sometimes that's not worth it, right? Think of how you also thrive.
On that note, I would be opening it up to you guys for any questions you have in your mind. We've been having so many conversations in the last 30 minutes, so I'm sure there's someone here is thinking about something, because I do have questions as well. So I'm like, I'm not the only young professional here that have questions to ask. So we're going to open it. Yeah, anyone could speak, start. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the talk today. Very inspiring. My name is Esther Bonner, and I work in the global health space. And this is a question for any of you all. I'm just wondering how you navigated kind of building your career and when to make shifts. I know, Ravi, you're mentioning like every 10 years making a shift, but like how did you navigate that, and any tips for us?
I'm gonna let you go first because you're in global health. I'm gonna try to figure out how to not make myself sound like a head case changing careers every 10 years.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess that I don't know, it's a hard question in the sense that I started off, I feel like I did a lot of weird things. So my undergraduate degree is in literature.
Right.
And then I did policy, and then I was like, maybe I want to do comms. And then I went back to advocacy. So I would say your timeline is your own. And I think your opportunities present themselves based on your network and based on the moment, right? It's kind of that thing about like, you have to be ready, and then there also have to be things in your environment that will make it possible. So I think it really depends on what you're trying to do. I think for me, my pivotal moments have come from a few different things. One, sometimes I thought I needed another degree, and I was like, you know what, I want to make a shift. But a lot of times it has been someone who has said, like, again, I can only speak as a Black woman, we keep adding things. We're always like, you know what? I have 10 things I need 11. And I think a lot of people just tell me you are ready is maybe the thing. And I think instead of thinking about like, what is the perfect moment, sometimes you're ready. And you might just need to be encouraged to just do it. I don't know. The world is never going to tell you you're ready, right? So.
And I think your value, I mean, for me, my values have changed probably every 10 years. Like probably all my cells have changed. And they change every 7 years or something. Like now I'm not a smoker anymore because like it's been 8 years or something. Like, yeah, new lungs, new values. It's always had something to do with women and gender. Women and technology. Like, starting off as just a tech nerd, and then a tech nerd that worried why there's no women here, and then being like, I can move this into a career and focus on domestic digital divide issues. And then I'm like, shit, what's happening internationally? Like, this is way worse. Like, do I have anything to offer here? So I think it's just a change of scope, of values. I will tell you one thing, and that two things. Told you I'd take up a lot of room. Let's see. I think the first one is I have never gotten a job I applied for. I have applied for many jobs. I'm applying for jobs now. I've actually said not to apply for jobs now. A few weeks ago, I was panicking. I'm like, I'm never going to be fed again. I'm going to go hungry. Not going to happen. However, I have never, and I got all rejections, like I do. I have never gotten a job through a job interview. I know we're supposed to look at them, but I think the higher you go, the more specialized you go, the more you're not everyone's cup of tea, and you have to create your own niches. All of my jobs have come from seeing a gap, offering a solution, taking it to the person that could hire me, and sometimes it takes a few years. So having that path and knowing that, at the end of the day, God's still going to laugh when you make plans, but, knowing that, okay, I want to get there, I'm going to get there, and going through that. I think that's where the values come in. And then the other thing is, I think I really wanted to go to Columbia. I'm glad I'm not there now. I really wanted to go to Columbia University. I didn't get in for undergrad. I didn't get in for grad school. I didn't get in for my PhD. Do you know who teaches there now? I do. Okay, it's not a great teaching position. It's an adjunct faculty position, but I would love it to go in and be like, oh, now I have value. Right, I'm not just a little hick from rural Montana that you didn't want to have in your cool New York environment. I really wanted to be a cool New York girl. So I just think we just see what you want. Yeah.
And also know that your path is going to look different than other people's path, and that's okay. I did a lot of things that even my parents were like, why are you doing that? And it was like, because it felt right to me. And I know on paper or to people I was talking to, they were like, for instance, I had been living in Malaysia working with Rohingya refugees and doing that for a while, and then I went to grad school. And then after grad school, I was very burnt out from Malaysia, burnt out from grad school. And I joined the Peace Corps. And my parents were like, I'm sorry, what are you doing? Like, why are I thought you were going to go get a job now, like you owe all this money. But I felt like I was like, this is an exciting opportunity. I really wanted to be fluent in a second language. And I was kind of like, I'm not getting any younger, like I'm not going to do this later, why not? And I was tired, I was really tired from the grind. And so that felt right to me. And so while all my other friends are now ahead of me in their career or whatever, I'm still content where I am. I still felt very happy that I did that. And that experience has absolutely helped me in other facets of my career. So don't judge, don't compare. Follow what feels good. You will get there. You will absolutely get there.
Yeah, that's great. Yes, and just to probably close off. And I think it's really dependent on what you're looking for. So personally, I started my career in communications, and it was exciting. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be a broadcaster. I probably want to be doing what I'm doing right now. But then I was looking at the value in the markets. I felt like there was more value in technology. Like, I think I'm going to go for where the big pay is. And that was my motivation. I went to technology. And I have the big pay, so I'm excited about it. Yes.
So my question is directed to Abigail. And I felt autistic. There was something that you did mention about taking space and ensuring that your voice is heard. I want to touch a little bit about that and get your take on this. How do you ensure that your voice is heard without being stereotyped or without being, I don't want to say suppressed, but without being sidelined or what's the term that they use for when they block you out of things because you said something that you held people accountable. Excluded. Yeah, how do you ensure or how do you navigate a space where you're able to still be vocal about things and be assertive and direct without falling into those categories as a woman of color?
Interesting you said, I was just in a situation last week. No, I think, there's two things. The first thing I'm gonna say is, you and I both know you didn't do anything wrong. You are voicing your opinion. If you're doing it in a professional way, there's nothing wrong with that. It is someone else's issue. If they're going to take issue with you standing up and saying, hey, I have an opinion here. So that's one thing. So, and I hate saying you're never, but I feel like in my lifetime I might not ever get over that, because there will always be maybe someone in that room or someone in the conversation who might look at me and say, oh, why is she like, what is going on right now? So there's that. But also, like, I said this before, like, when you show up with confidence, and you show up with confidence where you're still gonna be actively listening, you're doing it the right way. I don't think you should feel uncomfortable, because what we do when we feel uncomfortable and don't show up is then we minimize who we are. We minimize our value. We minimize our opportunities to grow because we're not sharing our ideas, we're not sharing our opinions, we're not able to show maybe our supervisors that, hey, we are valuable in this conversation. And so what you do is actually kind of take a step back. And so you know, and I know that you're not saying anything inappropriate, and you really should be a part of that conversation. There are gonna be times though you just can't get over other people's opinions, and that's something that I have dealt with almost every job, and it's just part of that, but I have to know who I am, and I have to know that I am not that person, and that's their issue, not mine.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I guess my experience has been that the people who are gonna stereotype you are gonna do that regardless of how exactly you show up. You could toe the line perfectly and they're still going to do that. So I think you cannot have that dictate how you show up in the space, as long as you're doing it with integrity and respect. And I think sometimes people are hoping that you shrink.
Yeah, to minimize your opportunities,
Right.
like they don't, yeah.
So I think you have to find a balance of like, I still need to stand in my power. And I often think, my experience is that often people are not expecting you to call them out gently either, right? Like they want you perhaps to also go to the, I don't know what's extreme, but they want you to lean into the stereotype that they have in their minds, but they're also not expecting you to just call them out in sometimes gentle and very subtle ways. So I would say there is no situation where shrinking has ever helped me. As painful as it may be, it has never helped me, ever. So
Doing the opposite.
exactly.
Doing the opposite.
If you have to kind of almost lean in, and I would say there is some fatigue with that, right?
Oh,
So I think that's the thing about the community, right? I think you want to be in a situation where you're in a work environment where you know you can stand up for yourself, but also there is at least one other person in that room who will be your validator. I think it's a balance, because sometimes, again, it's okay to remove yourself from work environments that are harming you. And if you're constantly on the front line of this, you're constantly being disrespected, I think after a while you have to decide, it doesn't mean you have to give up your goal,
Right.
but is this the environment that will foster my growth and my development, right? If I can't find one other validator in these moments of disrespect to say, wait a minute, you might be in the wrong work environment, right? I don't know, I know that's a tough call because so many spaces are close to us, but maybe I'm feeling very defiant right now. I think our time and our expertise is valuable, and we sometimes need to stop throwing our pearls before swine. So I'll stop there, yeah.
Anything to add? Sure. Like, is it, okay, yeah. I think that,
It is also applicable to you.
it is. It's always a weird thing, right? Like, you know, I'm the white chick trying to talk about race. It's just, it's never or gender, or any of these things, right? It's never a comfortable situation. I love that. It's like talking about periods or stuff in front of your boyfriend. It's like, hey, I like to watch you squirm. Squirming, I think squirming can be kind of fun. I love the idea that you said about, you know, just kind of gently pulling somebody up because they're just like, oh shit, and you know, they're being a dick. They are. It's their right to be that, but it's really unpleasant, and I don't want them around. You know, it's fun if you can do that safely too. What I will say is that, like, I think as I get older and older, the more I want to champion my junior staff, right? I do not need to go on any more international trips. I never thought I would say that. I never need to go across Western Africa in another chicken bus again, right? Because that was fun at 24. It is not fun now. I want thread count, I want hot water, and I want everybody else to have a great adventure. So I really go out of my way to just make sure, you know, are junior folks getting the travel? Are they getting the opportunities? Because I think that, you know, we seem to rest on our laurels. At least I can do that sometimes. And then are we bringing people along? Are we good springboards? I'm not that valuable anymore because, like, I can tell, like, my mind has started to change a bit. I don't know if it's menopause or cannabis or COVID or whatever the case is. Like, I'm not as smart as I used to be. You are smart and you are still young and your cerebral cortex is just closed, right? And so I feel like I want to be a springboard so badly for people who are going to have a longer runway, who have better ideas, who are going to be on this earth longer, who are facing problems and solutions that I can't even think about yet. And I really feel like my value now, probably for the next 10, 20 years, is just pushing people where they want to go. And that includes, like, when I see somebody, you know, uncomfortable on anything from a metro to a meet and greet, you know, just feeling them and making sure that they feel heard, championed, and that if I can be of help to you, anytime, that's push the fear. Just LinkedIn me and be like, hey, I see we have a connection. Chances are I don't even know the connection. I'm gonna mama bear it, and I'm gonna reach out to them, and I'm gonna be honest with you. So yeah, I'm much more invested in you than, yeah.
That's amazing to know. Yeah, I know we have one last bucket. Yeah, that probably will be the last. And we would be having more time after now, so we can easily, you know, ask questions. But I'll be taking it.
I'll stand since I'm like way in the back. But good evening, all. Thank you, panelists, for being here and speaking with us today. I'm super excited and listening to your words of wisdom. One thing I would like to know, it can be however much pearls or insights you would like to give, but in this particular environment right now where there are so many people on the job market, whether you are entry level, mid-level, executive level, what advice would you all have so that we can stand out as we're applying and as we're interviewing and as we're latching on to all these great opportunities that are out there?
I can't answer that because I've never gotten a job. But I'm going to think of something interesting.
Oh my goodness. I think I'm not gonna lie, I think it is a tough moment now because you also have people who have been in this sector for a long time also competing with people who are just entering the field. So I really don't want to downgrade it. I'm like, man, it's just gonna be sparkles. But I do think it is really a bit of what both of my co-panelists were saying. I don't think we can depend only on the job application. I think it really is working those networks and not feeling afraid to reach out to people and have coffees with people and say, like, truly, what is the opportunity here? I will just say one thing. As someone who I get a lot of like informational requests, I think a lot of times, people are being polite and they're like, so tell me about your work, and I'm like, well, just tell me what you want, right? So I think when you reach out, sometimes it's okay to be clear, like, honestly, I'm interested in your organization, I'm not necessarily interested in your initiative, but would you be willing to make an introduction for me to the organization I'm actually interested in? Sometimes I feel like I sit through an hour of somebody being like, so tell me about your life. And I'm like, I know you don't care about my life. So I think sometimes just don't be afraid to actually just be specific about what it is you want people to do for you, because you'll be surprised at how much people are willing to just do it instead of kind of going in a circle, We want to work with smart people too, right?
Yeah. This isn't directly related to the question, but it kind of is. This moment will pass. Like, what we receive right now will not last forever. It feels like it will, and it feels dark, and I think I know that this can't, like, all of our jobs have been impacted. Like, it is a dark time. It will not last. That being said, I also think it's a moment for us, anyone, regardless of where you are in your journey of your career, to be a little bit humble. And what I mean by that is, when I was starting and I could not get my foot in the door, I was waiting tables. And I was volunteering, and I was going to events and saying, hey, I'll just do this for free. I'll help register people just to get to know people. And, it was kind of one of those moments where I'm not going to get the job right now, but I'm here, I am meeting people, I'm out doing it. And then that night I went and served tables, and I went and was bartender, and I did that for a couple of years. And it really actually was amazing because of all the people I met. And some of those people I'm still in conversation with today. And I also know during this, USAID Stop Work Order, I know colleagues and friends who are VPs who are like, I'm going back to Serbian. Because you have, sometimes that's just what it takes. But again, this is just a moment, it will not last. And as long as you can keep that and keep your eye on the goal and know that particularly women, we are resilient. We have gone through decades, centuries of feeling oppressed, feeling excluded, having our voices shut out. This is just one of those moments again, that's with our career. So just to remember that you're not alone. Many people, as Delise said, are here to talk to you, are so willing to do, even if you ask hey, do you know this person? Do you think we could, have a chat? Could you send an email? Do you want to do coffee? People will do it. People absolutely do it, and right now people will do it even more because they understand the dire situation we're in.
Amazing. And on that note, we will be inviting co-chairs, Chastity, come close this panel. Well, it's been so amazing, having conversations. And right after now, I'm sure we'll have more time to speak, chat. Yay!
Just want to say thank you again to our panelists for providing such incredible insights, especially during Women's History Month, but more so also coming together to provide a space for community and solidarity, especially in these challenging times. We will have time for you to network with our panelists. I know Paula introduced me, and I can just reintroduce myself. I'm Lanice Williams, and I serve as the co-chair for the Young Professionals Program at UNA-NCA. So myself and Najad are here if you want to network, learn more about UNA-NCA, the Young Professionals Program. Our panelists are here if you have questions. I'm also here to be a resource if you also want to just talk through navigating career challenges and changes, because one of the questions that was asked, I personally, just sharing a little bit with you, before my current role, I was laid off from the INGO. So I also have just personal lessons and stories that I've navigated, and happy to be of a resource and provide any insights to you as well.
Yeah, thank you, Elise. And I'd like to echo, I think, one of the central themes tonight, which is to turn crisis into opportunity. And so as you navigate this challenging time, remember that this isn't going to be the first nor the last time, but it does showcase the resiliency of women, community, and persevering as an individual. Another thing I'd like to say is, don't just network upward, but also remember to network across your peers, because they are the future women leaders that you see today. But yeah, thank you all for coming out, and thank you to the panel.